It's spring week 2 in Apothecaria, and my witch discovers her witch name. Hey there, welcome to Drawing Expressions. I'm Parz. I have been doing an Apothecaria themed creative writing exercise now for, well, let's see now here. This is video number 5. And yeah, so it's been an interesting series so far. The prior 4 have been more nuts and bolts, becoming less so as we worked our way through. This is the first video where since we've covered all of the hows, how do you draw prompts and how do you operate within Apothecaria, this turns much more into how do we take the tools that we have, our mixing bag or a mixing bowl full of stuff, and turn it into an interesting journal story. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Before we get into all of that stuff, though, let me first go to here, guidelines. This is the singular thing that you are going to hear every single video. If I say things that just don't make sense to you, if they're not working for you, don't use them. And if you are using things that I don't mention, please drop me a note, because I love hearing about new things, new tools, new techniques. It makes my writing more interesting when I hear from you. Let's see now here. The planner and the pantser section. So the planner section is going to be the elements that I brought together to create this episode. And then the pantser is going to be a bit of a discussion on some stuff. So before we get into that, let us get our minds and our bodies ready to write. And I'm going to invite you to breathe and stretch. So first off, I'm going to invite you to take a nice deep breath in with me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathing in. Here's the stretch. Love to do a little bit of back stretch, a little bit of wrist and hands. When you're ready to exhale, go for it. Don't wait for me. Or if I do it too soon, hit pause and then, go ahead. There's always ways around everything, including breathing guidelines, right? So we're just gonna a little bit more stretching, some poppy pops. And there we go. Okay. All right. Let's come back to here. So what I want to do, and this format is going to be different than what I have done in the past, and this is going to be the format that I'm going to use going forward. At least I think so. I think this is going to work. If at the end of the video you're like, dude, it's not working for me, drop me a note, give me a suggestion. But I think this is going to work really well. So the thing that I'm going to do is I want to talk about first kind of our creative inputs and how, what I perceived as my creative inputs, and then how I worked with them. And then I'm going to read the story. So that's the planner. And then the pantser, of course, is going to be a bit of a discussion about story and my take on how we interact with it. So with that said, let's first talk about the 3 elements that I insist are part of the creative mixing bowl. To come up with, I don't have a better term at this point, but creative mixing bowl. So one is going to be the guidebook, and that's going to include the prompts, right? And how we draw the prompts, those are in prior videos. You can always go back and check those out. So that's 1. So 2 is what we've written previously, and keep in mind that what we've written previously is not always set in stone, right? We can always go back and either edit some things. I'm not a big fan of that one. I like, because I'm writing it all longhand, I'm not doing it digitally, so I'm not going to go back and like rewrite a whole bunch of stuff. What I might do is I might have to edit, or not edit, but explain away something that doesn't make sense, or I just leave it out there and whatever. You know, sometimes you get into these book series where thing is like this, and then, you know, you go a few books out and then a thing is like that, and it's, you know, very, very different, and it's just like there's no explanation. It just happens to be like it had to be like this in that first book for it to work, and then it has to be like that in that next book to make that work, and no explanation. So if that is something that's cool and copacetic with you, perfect. And if it's not, then put in something that makes it okay. It's your story. You can do with it as you will. Okay, so that's the second element. The third element is the imagination element. It's going to be your inputs into how everything is getting expressed and some ideas that you may have that come forth. And this is going to be story that's talking to you as well. And we're going to be talking about that in the Pantser section. Okay, so so the first element, the prompts section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them up on the screen real quick. Take a screenshot if you're interested, and we can go through them in a minute. So there we go. So there we go. There's the prompts. I'm just going to have them up. Grab a screenshot, and then I'll pull it down in a second here and then we go through the elements. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm gonna come back to the room. Okay. So I've got my, whoops, that way. I've got my screenshot right here. And so if you're referring to your screenshot, perfect. If not, hit pause, go back, screenshot it. You're good. Okay, so our ailment today is toad nose. So according to the guidebook, toad nose is a term that was made up because witch nose was causing a lot of problems, consternation inside the witch world. So yeah, it's called toad nose, but it's a wart, at least one wart on the nose. Now, this particular ailment does not have a timer attached to it. It doesn't have a consequence timer. So what that means in the game mechanics is that there is, you get 13 actions. And so if you take 14, you fail and bad things happen. We're successful today. But yeah, timers is 13. So you've got a lot of time to play with. You've got a lot of things that you can do, a lot of things, right? A lot of actions. And remember, we talked about how actions are not specific to time. So don't try and tie this to hours or days. It's just individual actions that you can take. Okay. Right, so we've got toad nose. And your imagination part is who and how do they present? Now, toad nose, real quick, is there's tags that are associated to each ailment. So in this particular case, it is warts, that's the word on the nose, and mood. Important to remember for when we go later on. Okay, so when you find your reagents or the ingredient, the potion ingredients, they have tags, and so you just have to find the appropriate reagents to mix into your potion that will cure those particular tags, and then thereby you cure the illness. And you want to do it to the appropriate level. So if you've got the book, it'll make more sense. I'm going to note right now, this is not sponsored, so I'm not trying to sell copies of Apothecaria. But I think you would find it useful if you're trying to write Apothecaria story. Okay, so to cure toad nose today, when Alicia and I were plotting out what our journeys would look like, we decided, well, first we're going to go to Meltwater Lock. And we're going to harvest some things, right? We've got a lot of time, and so we can spend some time doing some stuff. While we are there, we see some strange tracks on the beach. What are they? What do they belong to? Who do they belong to? Don't know. That's all up to you. And we find out that the old witch supported a sports team, but we don't know what sport, we don't know what team, we don't know if there was any way that she supported them aside from just say like she was a fan. Then we went to Glimmerwood Grove, and we were challenged to a caber toss by pixies. Now, pixies are tiny little dudes. Like, okay, well, not that size, but I mean, they're like, you know, I'm putting my hand up like you're going to understand what the heck it is that I've got. It like waist high, knee high. Okay, these are not big fairy people. And so you're challenged to a caber toss. So what would a caber look like to a pixie? Probably not very big. So if you win, you get the 10 silver. If you lose, you have to pay with the reagent. If you refuse to pay the reagent, you get cursed. And what would that curse be? We don't know. You can make it up. You can have it put out there that there's this particular curse that someone's fond of, that you're going to get cursed if you don't hand over the reagent if you lose at caber toss. We also hear about a family member of the old witch. We don't know who it is, so you get to decide that. And we don't know how you heard about it. We do know the one thing is that the family member does not know anything about the current location or why the witch went away. You brew the potion. We did the smooth croak. We boil it to get the wort reagent out. Songberries, and we use the mortar and pestle. We crush that up to cure the mood. We also get, it's also a sweet reagent. And so real quick here, so sweet and poison. These are two elements in reagents. So poison, bad, just by virtue of the name, bad. So if you put in an element of poison, you lose 4 silver. You put in 2 elements of poison, you lose 2 silver. Now, if you put in 1 element of sweet, that's plus 4 silver, and then 2 elements of sweet, that's 2 elements, so it's plus 8, and so on. And they do balance out. So if you put in 2 elements of sweet against 2 elements of poison, net result is 0, so there is no effect. You haven't harmed anybody. So poison is a little bit of a misnomer because sweet can counteract it. So poison is really going to be just like distaste. Okay, that is that. And then in the end, we treated cleanly. So we treated only the reagents that were required. So that is plus 2 reputation. So, you know, a little bit higher reputation boost than normal. And we pick up 24 silver. So 20 silver for successfully making the potion, 4 for the single dose of sweet. So that is the elements that we drew using the cards and going through the guidebook, right? And so there's going to be other prompts in there besides. Right, I've given you the list of the things just to kind of give you the framework, but all of the little details, the details about each of the reagents and where they're found and how you collect them and whatnot, those are all in the book. So you can make them up if you don't want to get the book. My recommendation is like, if you want to be true to the guide, get the guide. So you have that. Also keep in mind that none of this has to happen in linear order, right? You can have, tracks on the beach, that's going to be tied pretty tightly to Meltwater Lock, but finding out things about the witch can happen anywhere along in the journey, right? It's fun to include them. And if it doesn't work for you, drop the prompt. All right, that's another little element here too. If it doesn't work for you, just drop the prompt. Your story is not going to be harmed by the fact that you're missing a prompt. No one's going to know. And even if you remember and like, oh, I should have included that prompt. Okay, well, fine, put it in for next time. All right? I mean, it's not a big deal. Come over here to what's been written before, right? So this is the second element that we're bringing in. What's been written before? So We have 3 episodes under our belt now. So we've got the prologue, and we've got week 1, Cure, where we did Albert Flywheel, where we had warty lips. And then we have the rest period, where we found out that 20 silver doesn't really take you all that far in the land of High Rannoch and Apothecaria. And things are a little bit more hard scrabble, maybe, than would appear. We have a familiar who's not being very helpful. Certainly not what we were hoping for when we did our summoning ceremony. So that kind of plays into things. Reputation is starting to go up. But the thing about when your reputation is just starting to move, right? You can be comfortable at a certain level. And if it's not moving, all right, I mean, things are okay and like copacetic, and I know where I sit in the world. But if you start to get noticed, but your reputation is low, rising, but low, how do you feel? You're paying attention to to the reputation of who you are. And that can be a little bit painful if people are becoming aware of you, but they don't really respect you yet. Also, you're living in a cottage that's really not yours, right? It's not yet anyway, at least not for my witch. Right? She's there. She's moved in, and she's just always thinking about when the old witch comes back. So that one's a little bit of a makes things uncertain as well. So we're going to keep that in mind. When I was working with these ideas, what were some of the things that I wanted to bring forward, right? So this is my imagination piece. If you read fantasy books and whatnot, you're going to run into this idea that names have power. And that if someone knows your true name, they can have power over you. And there is some truth to that, right? Your name can be associated with all sorts of things. Your history, thoughts and feelings and whatnot. There is a lot that can get attached to a name. So do you really want to be revealing your true name to people who are now coming to you, where you're mixing up potions? It's magical, right? So do you really want to have your name out there? Or do you want to have your witch name that forever, ever after you shall be known as, so that no one will ever know your real name? This I wanted to put in. Another thing, since the toad knows the tags are warts and mood, right? We talked about that already. I wanted to include the mood into the ailment. Now, when I first started writing this, I didn't deliberately do it. I just had my patient be rude. But it provided a real opportunity. And so watch for that. Another thing is my witch's mind loves to wander, right? We've been in both episodes where she's kind of walking around, actually all 3. She just kind of, her head's in the clouds. I want to keep that up. I love how it just kind of drifts off, and then we can sort of explore threads of different things, ideas, tendrils. So, all that said, I would like to read you Spring Week 2 first. In case anyone's wondering, the glasses, my lovely lady love picked up for me a couple of years ago, made in Japan, and they are supposed to resemble, I believe it's Mount Ito. Let's see if I can, never can keep things straight on the screen. I turn it one way and it goes the other way, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it's just an interesting little texture on the glass. So it's supposed to be reminiscent of, I believe, Mount Ito. I don't believe Mount Fuji. And if it's Mount Fuji, well then, okay. Anyway, with all of that said, I am going to go over now to the blog. This is Spring Week 2. I've titled it, I Become Mistress Sweetwater and Cure Madame Hightower. I found myself wondering, once again, if I'd made a foolish choice in staying in the witch's cottage. It had been more than a week already, and I could feel my uncertainty filling the future. Did I really want those feelings of being someone apart from the rest of humanity? Yes, the cottage and grounds are peaceful, but at some point we all want companionship. Unwilling mousy familiars don't count. Nor do grumpy disbelievers in my ability to help them through their various ills and ailments. Nor do... I guess I'm just feeling sorry for myself. Who am I kidding? Stepping into the role of local witch without having a clear idea of what I'm doing. Let's face it, I'm making it up as I go along. Ugh. Maybe I need a hobby. Like taking care of things here isn't enough. Maybe Hi, you busy? Mouse eye. He tries, I think. Maybe my expectations, my hopes, and my dreams are just getting in the way. Maybe if He jumped onto my shoulder and then tapped on the side of my head. Hello, is anyone home? Somewhere in there I should have counted to 10 before answering, but I didn't give myself that space. So a bit more sharply than I should have, I answered, Yes, what is it? What's so important? He twitched his whiskers. He was irritated too. And I was probably the cause. But kudos to him, he swallowed a sarcastic comeback and got to the important thing he wanted to bring up. Something we've never discussed is what I should call you. And he was right. I'd never thought of telling him my name. Oh, well, it's... He quickly interrupted. Not your real name. Real names have power. If someone knows your real name, they can have power over you. Witch is your job, your title, but won't suffice as a name. Is there a name that speaks to you that you can call yourself and that others can use? I'd never given it much thought. Any thought, really. A name not my own that I'd make mine? It was a new and novel concept, one that was just so foreign. I wonder how someone goes about doing something like that. Would I need another trip to the Glimmerwood Grove to ask for one? Would I have received one at the school if I hadn't left, that is? Maybe, you have 5 minutes, so just ask yourself and find yourself a name. What? Why? 5 minutes before what? 4 minutes. Mental turmoil galore. But within all that, all the confusion and the unknown and a demanding mouse and an uncertain future and a past rapidly receding and choices becoming more and more permanent, I heard myself use a name. Mistress Sweetwater. 3 minutes. Mistress Sweetwater, I shouted. He paused, then murmured, Mistress Sweetwater, Madame Sweetwater, Mother Sweetwater, Granny Sweetwater. Yep, all sounds good. It works, Mistress Sweetwater. And that was that. I had a new name. And never would I use the old one again. So, if I had a new name, did that mean, Mouse-Eye, what's your real name? And he just looked at me. I'm here to help you to the degree that I want and can do. Telling you my real name isn't part of the deal. Oh, and the rush is because someone is coming down the path. And with that, there was a voice calling from outside the cottage. Hello, Miss New Witch, I require help. And then she knocked on the door. I flashed a look at Mouse-Eye. You could have told me she was coming, I hissed. I did, with 5 minutes to spare. As I reached for the door handle, Mouse-Eye said, Smile! Grrr. But I did smile as I opened the door, or at least I tried. Not that she noticed. She barged through the door and past me. Where's your mistress, girl? Don't just stand there. I'm in a hurry and my time is invaluable. My smile became more strained. I'm Mistress Sweetwater, the new witch. How can I help you? She turned and looked at me. No, girl, you misunderstand. My maid, Francie, said that you are the domestic here. I'm looking for the new witch that cured the miller's boy of his warty lips. Ah, well, that helps explain things. I cured him. She just stared at me. Then, well, are you going to help me or must I go somewhere else for help? That smile was now very forced. I'd love to help you, madame. Her eyes narrowed to slits. Hightower, Madame Hightower, as everyone in this part of the world knows, or should know, now you will help me. This was too much. Certainly, madame. I probably added too much obvious snark into that madame. If only you'd tell me what your affliction is. Humph! Should have known a little slip of a girl wouldn't know her stuff. If you were worth anything, you'd know just from my visage. Her visage? Her face. Something amiss on this horrible person's face. A cursory look didn't reveal anything. What? Oh, for heaven's sake, this, right here, as clear as the nose on your face. She was pointing at her nose. I took a closer look and saw a tiny wart. Have you tried kissing frogs? I asked. Her eyes blazed. The effrontery of such a question! No, I haven't been kissing frogs, nor rubbing them on my nose. It just appeared marring my flawless complexion, and I'm to host a small gathering of close acquaintances in a few days. What am I to do? Her angry facade gave way to anguish. Angrish, to coin a term. Frankly, I didn't see what the big deal was. And of course I will pay handsomely for a cure. Well, there was my motivation. Not a great one, but the coin would help smooth my trampled feelings. Okay, I'll get to work on a cure. You can go home and I'll— Absolutely not! The imperious bitch reemerged. I'll stay here, thank you very much, and ensure that you effect a cure post-haste. I will sleep on this bed and stay here until I am cured and can face society again. Will you now? Fine. Then I think I'll take my time in making this potion. But first, I need a diagnosis. And for that, I need to know, is it only the rhino wart? Are there others? A rhino-sized wart! How dare you! The rhino refers to the nose. I was asking if you had any other warts besides the one on your nose. That seemed to mollify her a bit. Ah, I see. A medical term. Frankly, you surprised me. But no other warts. I turned to the book. Mouse-Eye was there, out of sight from Madame Hightower. Quickly, we identified her affliction. Toad nose. As we worked through the needed reagents, I found myself asking myself if there was something going on in the vicinity. First frogworts, and now toadworts? Strange. I turned back to my impatient patient. I need to gather reagents. Please stay here. Where I need to go is very dangerous, but I will return with the ingredients needed to cure you. You are certain you can eliminate my disfiguration? Yes, and in time for your party, but please be patient in the meantime. And with that, I gathered my things and headed out. Our first stop, Meltwater Lock. As we made our way to the lock and gathering, not just what we needed for treating my newest patient, who was helping me realize the connection between patient and patience, the one I needed more of, and the other I also needed more of. The first one will come in time if I continue to do a good job, but the other was all up to me. And regardless of anything else, that is surely not a subject covered in that school. Nope. This is something that requires experiences, and none were to be had behind a desk playing at potion making, whereas here I am, tromping around on a warm spring day on my way to gather this and that at the lock. Oh, if only my family could see me now, going from no prospects in the far-off woods to being someone counted upon, someone respected, someone— Hey, what's that? What's what? I looked around to see where we were. We'd just come out onto a beach. Where are you looking, Mouse-Eye? Right in front of you, in the sand. Sometime, and hopefully sometime soon, I'll learn to pay attention to where I am, to where I'm going, and to the very large tracks that look like a massive dog walked into the water. My first thought was gratitude for not meeting whatever it was that made those tracks. My next thought of gratitude is that they went down the beach and into the water. Had they been pointed the other way, I would have been scared of it wanting to go back into the loch, but stopping for a small witch lunch first. I ventured, "A dog?" Mouse-Eye looked at me. "That big?" "A large dogfish?" We both stared at the tracks for a minute. Then I said, "What do you think the chances are that it's alone? You know, no mate, no large little dogfish?" We both listened intently. A gentle lapping of surf, insects buzzing, birds chirping, the safe sounds of a beach were all we heard. Certainly no crashing through foliage, no loud breath bubbles in the water, no signs anything would give us grief. That was a relief. Despite the feeling that we were safe, I still had Mouse-Eye keep lookout. After all, he says he's good at watching, so watch out for danger. He took a position on a cliff edge while I started gathering reagents. First, gather up this. First up, smooth croak. It was an amazing ingredient last time, so I went with it again. Besides, finding the frogs so iridescently colorful was most of the joy in gathering it. Collecting the mucus that coats those beautiful skins was less so. And that was all I needed from here. But since I was determined to take my own sweet time with the cure, I also gathered some extra things, like wigfish. How can you not grab the seaweed wigs the fish put on their heads when they just parade back and forth in the water, desperate for attention? Although it's possible they were hoping I'd be some sort of beauty judge. The reason I'm only half kidding about the beauty show judge thing is that they, each of them, emerged from behind a grove of deepweed. After I'd taken a wig, the fish disappeared, leaving me free to harvest a branch or two of the reeds. As I prepared to gather up some gasweed, which had floated up to the surface from the depths, and also slime shell, because apparently I hadn't gotten my hands on enough slimy stuff after gathering the smooth croak, I called up to Mouse-Eye to check out Glimmerwood Grove before we headed that way together. After getting through the seemingly required "must I set to collecting the last reagents. While I waited for the all clear, I decided to dry off and warm up by lying on the beach and soaking up the sun. I found myself, besides keeping an ear out for giant dogfish, staring up at the clouds. They were all puffy and white. What would it be like to fly up there? Wouldn't it be the same feeling of cold and wet like what happens when it's foggy? Would they be more solid? Could you turn clouds into thread and then into fabric? Imagine a set of clothes made from cloud cloth. Would they be light as air? Could I maybe one day fly to them? Or maybe I could just climb Moonbreaker Mountain and do it that way. I could maybe, "Good morning, sleepyhead." And then a pressure landed on my chest. Opening my eyes, there was an impudent mouse staring at me. I tried to speak, but between the sun, the sand, and my mouth being wide open while I napped, all I had was cotton in my mouth. And not cottony soft cloud. Nope, this was full-on cotton sand, the ultimate drying agent. After taking some refreshing gulps of loch water, I was finally able to ask about Glimmerwood Grove. "It's all good, and there's a group that wants to play a friendly game with you." I should have asked who the group was and what game they wanted to play, but I figured I'd find out in a little bit anyway. Reminder to self, ask the questions beforehand. When we got to the grove, there was indeed a group who challenged me to a game. Caber toss. Thankfully, the group was a group of pixies. If it had been trolls or really anything much bigger than me, I'd have lost of a certainty. As we set up for the game, getting the log, much more like a large stick, ready for tossing, the pixies started taunting me. It was good-natured, but they insisted that there be a small wager on the outcome. They said that the old witch would routinely lose and that she'd pay off her debt with a fresh reagent. They also let me know that if I refused to give a reagent, they'd lay a curse on me. There was at least one pixie who really wanted to practice their curse craft. Inspired by their attitude, especially the expectation I'd throw the game, I threw the caber farther than I ever would have dreamed I could. Pixie jaws dropped. I suppose you won fair and square, although I wonder why. The old witch supported us with fresh reagents and needed an excuse so she'd lose at the caber toss. Ah, well. And they turned to go. Aren't you forgetting something? I wondered if I crossed my arms, tapped my feet, or pursed my lips if I'd look more imposing. One of the pixies reluctantly reached into a pouch. Fair's fair, I suppose. And with that, he handed me 10 silver. And then they left in a huff. After they'd gone, I looked for Mouse Eye. Pixies? Caber toss? Are you kidding me? I must admit I got pretty shrill. Granted, okay. But 10 silver is nothing to sneeze at. And did you know the old witch was a pixie caber toss team supporter? That's something. So all in all, it all worked out. Thanks to me. And your bulging biceps, of course. We both knew that I don't really have biceps, let alone ones that bulge. My dad, arms bigger than my whole body. Me, thin as reeds. Come on, let's get to work. These things won't gather themselves. After walking a bit, we started hearing singing. Unearthly singing. God-awful unearthly singing. Drunk fairies. If you've never heard drunk fairies before, they're just like regular fairies, but using dirty lyrics, out-of-tune melodies, and harmonies that can knock birds unconscious. I think I heard this one. There once was a man from Glasney, whose prick was the size of a flea. You'd think never under heaven that it could plant a bun in the oven. It just made wee bear number 23. Yep, drunk fairies. The thing about drunk fairies is that you can pretend to be just about anything and they'll believe it. For instance, this is how our little conversation went. Hey, who are you? I'm a fairy good witch here to harvest some songberries because they're so ripe and sweet. Oh, hi, I recognize you. Sure, go ahead. While I picked a few, I couldn't help but notice some rats in cages off to the side. I had to ask, what are you doing with the rats? Training them, fastest rats you'll ever see. May I have some of their spit? Rat spit is fantastic for teeth. Sure, but it won't make you any faster. I'm sure that's okay. A small vial of rat spit later, and I was ready to head home and on to kicking someone out of the cottage. Home. Did I just call the cottage home? I guess I did. So I guess it's time to start treating it not as a guest would, but as an owner would. And hopefully the old witch, when she returns, will appreciate my efforts. It was with that in mind that I headed back. Yes, I'd shown her that I wouldn't be rushed out, but I was tired, hungry, and so ready for a bath and bed. But first, a potion. As I approached the cottage, Francie yelled out to me from the wood chopping block. Hello, Mistress. Oh, my lady will be so happy to see you back. How was your adventures of getting your things? Why didn't you tell me you were really a witch? Why would someone who's so clearly skilled need lessons in healing the misfortunes of others? Oh, I should alert my lady you're back. Was I gone for so long that Madame Hightower needed her maid? Oh, yeah, probably. So that's 2 people who can vacate as soon as I've got the potion prepared. I entered the cottage, my cottage, I amended, and was met with the expected imperious demands. Where have you been? Did you want me to die of exposure and starvation? I had to bring Francie here to keep me safe and sound, and what have you done? Nothing, except perhaps gather things. Something in there brought me up short. I asked you to wait at home. You refused, but you went back home to bring your servant here? Well, of course. I couldn't leave you to your own devices without my supervision, and yet I needed someone to take care of all the little duties while you were away. I decided not to press it. Instead, I asked Francie to get the fire stoked. You will not give directions to my servant, young lady. If you have need of something, I expect you to do it. It's what I'm paying for, after all. Sealing my lips so tight that they must have turned a blinding white, I got the fire up to boil the smooth croak mucus. As it boiled, I crushed the songberries and let them sit in the mortar. I figured letting the air into the juice would enhance its sweetness. It felt like it took forever, what with scowls from one and poorly contained excitement from the other, but eventually I'd poured the two together and thus finalized the potion. Madame Hightower held her nose as she started to drink, but then eagerly downed the rest. The songberries really were quite sweet. After she downed the last of it, she sat down heavily onto my bed. She looked dazed. Yeah, I was worried something had gone wrong and was getting ready to do... I really don't know what I would have done. But she looked at me and for the first time since arriving, was actually nice. You make a wonderfully tasting healing concoction, Mistress Sweetwater. My thanks to you. I believe this is your going rate, plus let me add a bit extra for the delightful taste. 24 silver. Isn't that lovely? But isn't it really lovely just how she changed? Those songberries and its mood-enhancing properties. Golden. Francie then rushed to her mistress's side. My lady, your wart is gone. The lady looked at her maid. I have no doubt this lovely new witch achieved a cure. As she and Francie made their way out the door, Madame Hightower looked back at me. At the party I'll be hosting, I expect Mrs. Ruffage, the head mistress of the herbology school, will be there. I believe she's the old witch's cousin. I'll be sure to put in a good word. I'm sure she'll be pleased to hear that you are filling in so ably. Good day to you. And that was that. No invitation, though. Although, to be honest, I would have declined. Still, it would have been nice to have been asked. After the ladies had left, I finally turned to Mouse-Eye. Well, we're home. Our home. Mouse-Eye just curled up near the fire. That's nice. Then Mousy snores quickly followed. You know what? Food and bath can wait. I laid down on the bed without bothering to undress first. That's something you can do in your own home. And that is the episode. Well, use a little of this before I move on. And now I could use a little breathe and stretch. I invite you to join me. Take a nice deep breath in. Breathing in. Stretch. That feels so much better. So did you hear the elements that I had talked about earlier? With the prompts, I wanted to combine up some things and make things a little bit more concise, like what I did last time. So the sports team prompt with the Pixie caber toss, I wanted to mix that in with some other stuff. It helps to make the story more cohesive. So let's talk about the familiar, Mouse-Eye. My perception currently is that he's useless. Is he really? How can we write that so that we can see some of that dynamic that's going on of what he really is versus what we think he is? I wanted to include, and I like including things when I can slide in references to things I enjoy. I like maybe little bits of my own personal history. And in this one, there was a wonderful opportunity. There's a Discworld reference that comes up. The tapping of the feet, the pursing of the lips, the crossing of the arms. This is something that the Kelda, who is the head of the Nak-Mak-Feegle in the Discworld series, she does in order to keep her Nak-Mak-Feegle in line. So I thought I would put that in for our witch. So that is where that was. Okay. Now to some discussion items that I wanted to bring. Here we go. So within the realm of writing, right, and we've talked about that you have three basic elements that kind of come into the mixing bowl. What do we do? So really the prompts and what's been written before, those are set, right? I mean, we've talked about that we can edit and, you know, apologize and explain and whatnot for what's been written before, but it's there, right? So once you have those two, now you can let your imagination kind of go to work. And to do that, I suggest you approach your writing with an open mind. So instead of trying to force things, instead of trying to force words and ideas into your head, allow them to appear. Work with the process, don't be the process. So that's one. Next one. When I'm doing that, and I'm being part of the process and I'm allowing things to go, I can start to test things. What if? What if we did this? What if we approached it that way? Wouldn't it be funny? See, funny is one of my go-tos. I like lighthearted. I like things that that just make me laugh. And so my writing, I try to make that lighthearted as well. But I like to keep things clean, but I like to keep them funny. So the next item, so the version that ends up on the page is the version of whatever it is that ends up on the page. You could have all these ideas in your head. You can have these plot points that you've been thinking about, that you've been dreaming all night about, that have come to you and they've said, you know, we really want to be considered. There's like little auditions, right? Little idea auditions, like, what do you think about me? When it comes time to actually start writing, for me, it's almost like a meditative process. And I'm not really thinking about what I'm putting on the page. I'm just sort of hearing what is there and just scribing it down. So this fits in very nicely with what I've talked about before with my creative writing process, which is you observe, right? And so we're observing the prompts and we're observing what's been written before. We're observing the imagination. We're observing the story. And then scribing it, the version that's finally coming out. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have crossouts and whatnot, like something gets put down and my eye goes, nah, something's just not right. Just cross that out, try again, and off we go. But it tends to be very light. I don't like to edit, right? This is no place for edit. This is a place for just allowing the ideas to flow. And in fact, when I do the transference from writing longhand using the fountain pen into Blogger, it gets a light edit, but that's really the only place where I edit at all, and that is a light one. I don't work the story over. If you're looking for finished work, you can buy published works everywhere. This is not about that. This is all about allowing ideas to flow, allowing your creativity just to kind of come forth. So that's that. And the last note is where you find it appropriate, square breathe, right? We've done it before. We've done it on every single video I have ever done. And so, you know, grab one if you don't remember, just, you know, do the, you know, that whole thing. It will help put you into a space. And the more that you do it before you write, the more your body and your mind are going to associate that particular breathing technique to you writing. And so you're telling your body and your mind, I am ready to go. Let's go ahead. Let's do this. Now, that doesn't mean that during times throughout the day, I don't have story that's coming in and whispering to me and saying, wouldn't this be funny? Wouldn't that be funny? I can be making coffee. I can be, preparing food. I can be doing, whatever. In the shower is one of those classic places. It's just like the idea, place. And there's all this thought, right? And that can happen as well. But that's really not the time when I'm sitting getting ready to scribe it out. This is all just observing at that point. But if you find it would be more beneficial to give yourself a bit of clean space, mentally and physically, do that square breathing. Give yourself that space. Do that little ceremony if you will, to let thoughts know that you're thinking about the writing. They're all, thoughts are coming in, and you're going to be thinking about them right now. And I think that's going to be, it's going to work for you. Because keeping all of that in mind, story is alive. I have contended this before. I will contend it again. Something can be alive. It does not need to be physical. It does not need to have a heartbeat. It doesn't need to have respiration. It doesn't need to meet the biological definition of physical biological life. Things can be alive outside of ourselves. And for the folks who have story coming to them out of the blue, some people can say, oh, it's just your subconscious and it's working and blah, 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 blah. No, I will contend that this is a different thing. This is coming from the outside in. And, whether you call it a genius or your muse or whatever, I just call it story. It's alive, it's separate, and it wants to be there. So it's alive. Now, just simply because it's alive does not mean that it is reasonable. It doesn't mean it can be logicked into doing what you want it to do. Think of it like a demanding toddler. It can be. Mine is better behaved. Maybe because I've been writing for so long. Maybe because I allow more open-mindedness to allow things to come in. But for whatever the reason, mine's a little bit better behaved. But some folks, story is just gonna like grab you by the shirt collars at, early in the morning or, inconvenient times or wherever. And it's gonna be like, I'm ready to talk now. And you gotta, there it is. What do? You work with it as best you can. And since it's inside of you, right? It's talking to you inside your head. That means it kind of, if you think of your head like water, or like a water container, right? And this idea, this spirit, whatever, is filling the container, so it sort of holds that shape. It will talk to you in ways that will get your attention. It will do things that will get your attention. So things that you normally wouldn't notice, like, if at 4 in the morning, there's like the rattling of a blind or a streak of light coming in through a window, and normally you would just ignore it and whatever. And today it just happens to be like blinding light and like a banging thing, and it just wakes you up. That's because story is like poking you, trying to get your attention. So the idea here is work with it, flow with it, and allow it to be. And over time, it will come to trust you and know that when you sit down, you're willing to listen, and it's willing to flow out and to be there. Yeah, so story is alive. Anyway, that covers what I was looking to cover in this video and this episode today. So what I would like to do is bring us over to the drawingXpressions haiku. A creative space, holistically supportive. Please like, share, subscribe. Liking is lovely. Subscribing is awesome. Sharing is caring. Sharing really is. Sharing is the one thing that will absolutely help us the best to be known to people who want to experience this kind of content, who want to be inspired to write and don't really know how, so they can maybe write episodically, just like we are. Anyway, all that said, thank you so much for being here, being part of the journey, for listening to me ramble on with my story. And if you enjoyed it, I really hope I will see you in 2 weeks when our witch, Mistress Sweetwater, discovers or is shown the Cloud Isles. Until then, I hope to see you then. Bye for now.